Princess Celestia the Changeling Queen, Chapter 18, Part 5. Chrysalis had been prepared for either a violent or a terrified reaction of some form from the prisoner. Her guess was confirmed as Custard's eyes widened and his yellow cheeks began to turn purple. At the same time, though, the chains that secured Custard began to clink as the pony trembled in fear. Fear that tasted absolutely delicious to Chrysalis' senses.
You!
Custard snarled, but the terror that he was gripped in strangled the volume of his voice. Thus Custard's statement only served to widen Chrysalis' fanged grin. The Changeling Queen's dagger-like eyes locked onto Custard's panic-filled blue ones. Her wings spread wide, her hooves stomping on the cold stone floor, Chrysalis advancing on the pony.
You will address me as Queen Chrysalis, little pony. You will answer every question I have for you, and perhaps I will let you live just a little longer,
said Chrysalis in a deadly soft voice.
Go to Tartarus, you black she-demon, and take your kind with you!
Stammered Custard. Chrysalis' eyes narrowed, and her fangs glistened in the dim light of the room. In a sudden, swift motion, Chrysalis slammed the table with her hooves and thrust her head forward, until her nose was almost pressed up against Custard's. The violence of the tactic ripped a loud scream from the Pegasus, as he writhed furiously trying to get away, but failing.
Oh, is the widow pony scared of me?
Chrysalis extended a leg forward, tenderly running it down Custard's shaking cheek. The pony shook his head, and promptly regretted it as Chrysalis growled, her eyes burning with rage. It was his last warning before the Changeling Queen seized Custard's chair with both hooves and yanked it towards herself. Custard found himself pulled forward until he was unable to see anything but the Changeling's hate-filled green orbs.
Oh, you better be! Tell me what organization you are part of! Tell me why they're trying to kill me!
Bellowed Chrysalis, right into Custard's face. Her snapping jaws were mere inches from the Pegasus's muzzle. Custard whimpered, his eyes filling with tears, his mane blown back by the strength of the roar.
Long live Equestria! Ponies forever!
Croaked Custard.
What did you say? Are you sure of your answer?
Asked Chrysalis silkily, her sneer spreading over her face. As she waited silently, she ran her tongue over her fangs, her hoof pressing just a little harder on Custard's Adam's apple. It was too much for Custard. He couldn't take any more of the ordeal that he had been subjected to. He promptly broke down in tears.
Equestria First, Your Highness! We're part of Equestria First organization!
Spluttered Custard.
What is Equestria First?
Asked Chrysalis, unable to keep the vindictive glee from her voice.
We fight what the royal guard and the equestrian government is afraid to fight. We protect ponies from monsters and aliens,
said Custard. Chrysalis's visage darkened at Custard's answer. The pitch of her already menacing tone dropped even lower into a thunderous rumble.
Monsters and aliens? Like whom? Changelings! Buffalo, minotaurs, dragons, zebras, anybody who threatens the existence of a pure pony Equestria!
Recited Custard. He seemed to withdraw strength from the words as if they were a prayer, something that Chrysalis was infuriated at.
How long have you been doing this? Demanded
Chrysalis.
For 10 years so far, and our numbers have grown strong in the shadows. We may have failed to rid Equestria of you today, you hellspawn cretin, but you cannot stop us! We've dealt with queens before!
Shouted Custard proudly. Silence stilled the cell, as a blank look came over Chrysalis's once furious features. Custard blinked, confused by the Changeling Queen's sudden silence.
Several years... No, 2.5 years ago, in the middle of autumn, did your organization attack a Changeling Queen and her escort?
Asked Chrysalis quietly.
How should I know?
Said Custard with a shrug, his confidence skyrocketing at the frailness of Chrysalis's question.
They were carrying a white flag,
said Chrysalis, this time with more force. Her eyes hard and cold as glacier ice in the midst of midwinter. Custard blinked, and his face brightened in recognition.
Oh, now I remember. Oh, she was a youngin'. I didn't lead the attack, but I sure wished I saw the look on that queen's face as we gave her a hoof full of magic. We couldn't recover her corpse, but we sure got her good.
Custard gasped, his mouth opening and closing like a desperate goldfish. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't breathe. Green magic was wrapped around his throat. Chrysalis's horn was glowing like an evening star, but despite the bright light emanating from her horn, the features on her face were as dark as a moonless night. Her face was a frozen mask, emotionless but for the tears of anguish that poured down her cheeks.
She was my daughter!
Screamed Chrysalis, funneling all of her magic to her horn. There was an eardrum-shattering bang and a blinding flash of gold-green light that made Chrysalis lose her concentration. Blinded, her eyes seeing spots, Chrysalis howled and staggered back. Rapidly, the Changeling shook her head, trying to clear her vision. She needed to find that bastard. She needed to make him pay. Out of her tear-blurred eyes, she saw a pony-like figure, and she charged. Except Chrysalis slammed into a form just as large as her own. It seized her in an iron grip, stopping her from moving, from getting to Custard. Shrieking with anger at being thwarted, Chrysalis flailed wildly at the restraining body. The grip lessened, weakening, as Chrysalis repeatedly slammed her hooves into the blurry figure. However, though, Chrysalis felt that she could almost escape, the pony holding her back, just managing to keep a hold on her. It was then that Chrysalis noticed a sharp pangs of pain stabbing into the side, where she had been hit by some of the assassins. Chrysalis groaned. Her sudden burst of strength had somehow opened up one of her wounds, the pain cleansing the fog of berserk rage that had descended on her mind. Exhausted, Chrysalis collapsed against the figure that held her, sobbing quietly into its shoulder.
Chrysalis, I'm so sorry,
said the white form. Chrysalis blinked, and as the features finally fell into focus, she gasped. The room was trashed. The table had been thrown aside, Custard was surrounded by Shining Armor's shield spell, as well as 3 other guards' ponies. All of them were glaring at the chained Pegasus with contempt-filled eyes. Chrysalis saw Chevalier standing beside her, realizing just now that they had been seizing her hind legs, and 2 of them even seized her tail with their teeth. Chrysalis turned her attention forward to find out who had been restraining her, only to be met with a determined magenta gaze. For in front of Chrysalis was Celestia. The alicorn was wincing a bit and her right eye began to bruise. Her crown had been knocked off and she was panting slightly. However, her hooves were wrapped around Chrysalis's body in a firm grip.
Get your hooves off me, Celestia!
Snapped Chrysalis.
Promise me you won't attack Custard if I release you,
said Celestia evenly. Chrysalis sighed.
I won't harm him. At least not with my own hooves.
The queen attempted to fix Celestia with a piercing stare, but she was too exhausted by the day's events.
I want him and his companions punished, and I want to have a say in how they will pay,
said Chrysalis.
Agreed. Custard and his compatriots will answer to Changeling and equestrian law. No death penalty, but I will allow you as much legal right as possible to choose the punishment that they will undergo,
said Celestia, and Chrysalis frowned. There had to be a catch to Celestia's offer. However, when the Changeling Queen met Celestia's eyes, she blinked. The alicorn's magenta eyes burned with unhindered righteous fury. Despite Celestia's composed mask and placid stance, her emotions had flared into an inferno of anger. The intensity didn't shock Chrysalis, for she had felt Celestia's anger before, but now Celestia wasn't angry at Chrysalis, she was angry for her and her daughter. It was a change that caught the queen off guard, though she couldn't deny it was rather a pleasant feeling that the alicorn was siding more with her on this matter.
That will do,
said Chrysalis. Celestia grimaced and slowly released Chrysalis. Only then did Chrysalis see the rapidly forming bruises on Celestia's skin. Around Celestia's hind legs, the stone floor was cracked. Chrysalis gawked, surprised at the strength of her charge. She hadn't expected to get so much speed in the confines of the interrogation cell.
I'm sorry I hurt you. I just lost yourself to anger. Don't worry, Chrysalis. We all do that from time to time, and you have a good reason to,
said Celestia, with a wry smile. The alicorn slowly turned to face the trembling Corporal Custard, who was now white as a sheet.
As for you, I have a question for you, Corporal Custard,
said Celestia.
Go ahead, Your Highness,
whimpered Custard.
Why?
asked Celestia. Every pony and changeling in the room was puzzled by the question, Chrysalis in particular.
Why, what, Your Highness?
asked Custard, confused as every pony else.
Why do you see anybody not as a pony, but as a monster? Why can't you just talk with them to figure out a solution? Why didn't you approach the royal courts? Why must you resort to taking these violent means? Because Harmony demands it, Your Highness! We can't let these aliens roam free through our lands, spreading discord wherever they go!
Said Custard. Celestia's already burning eyes shone even brighter, as she fixed Custard with a glare that could boil iron. When she spoke, her voice was not too loud, nor was it too soft. But somehow the words echoed throughout the room, spreading throughout the interrogation cells. Each word was laced with disappointment that cut like a keen-edged blade into everybody's hearts.
Harmony demands of it, you say? Let me tell you and what the rest of your organization has done for Harmony,
said Celestia.
You broke your oaths of loyalty to the equestrian military, which were to protect and serve innocents of all species. You were selfish and never gave the Changeling delegation any generosity. Instead, you selfishly chose to follow your own goals instead of considering the wishes of others. You failed to show kindness to those whose only crime is that they were born different from you. You provoked the invasion of Canterlots. Yes, your attack on Chrysalis's daughter provoked her attack on Canterlots, thus your organization inadvertently ended the laughter of so many ponies in a time of celebration. You lied to yourselves, feeding and creating a false dream of a supposedly better pony-only Equestria, when for more than 500 years, we've been accepting immigrants into our society and have seen no ill effects. Finally, you rejected friendship without considering its magic and instead abused magic to inflict heinous crimes. Crimes whose only result was to create an almost irreparable rift between ponies and changelings ever coexisting. Never mind cooperating. You nearly caused a war. Have our military academies taught you nothing about the destructiveness of what conflict brings? Have you not attended the heartwarming Eve celebrations?
Custard's head was shaking in denial, his lips mouthing no with an ever-increasing desperation. But Celestia wasn't finished. Taking a deep breath, the Alicorn sighed sadly.
You are never getting rid of discord, Corporal Custard. You have been causing it,
said Celestia, her words falling with dreadful finality. And with that, Celestia, ears flattened in melancholy, walked silently through the ruined doorframe and out of the interrogation cell. Behind her, Chrysalis stood at the ruined doorway, more puzzled than ever about how she felt towards the enigmatic Alicorn. I can't imagine showing that amount of disappointment to someone is ever easy, nor is it the most pleasant whenever you're the one being targeted for it. Either side, not very fun. Anyways, let's get on to our very fun donators. Top donators are 630, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, and Only One Thing. Rayden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Pastel Skies, Austin Rollins, CrazyCliff557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyre, Chris, Twinkie, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Edge, Runescythe9852, Madman's Dan, Lizzie Prickett, Drake Lovedragon, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, LineGod12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hudzaza, Conver, and many more fantastic people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.